Welcome, everyone, to the Leadership in Quarters podcast, the interview series where leaders come to share their perspectives on different leadership topics. I'm Josh Seldin, and today's guest is Jan McInnis. Jan McInnis has written for Jay Leno's Tonight Show monologue, as well as many other people, places, and groups. Radio, TV, syndicated cartoon strips, guests on The Jerry Springer Show, and yes, her parents are proud. For the past 25 plus years, she's traveled the country as a keynote speaker and comedian, sharing her unique and practical tips on how to use humor in business. And yes, that is a business skill. Jan has spoken to thousands of organizations, from the Federal Reserve banks to the Mayo Clinic. She is the author of 2 books, Finding the Funny Fast and Convention Comedian, and has been heard on hundreds of radio stations and podcasts. Jan was also featured on the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, and the Huffington Post for her clean comedy. So welcome, Jan.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. Now, I would love to spend this episode just talking about how I used to think the Jerry Springer Show was real and all the guests were real. So you just rocked my world right there.
I'm not saying it's not all real, but there is a little bit of not real in it.
Yeah,
I don't know how real it is. I never really watched it, but
I will say I used to. Definitely gives me a different perspective on all that time I spent watching that when I was younger.
it's better to watch it than be a guest on it, right?
For sure. That is a true statement.
That means you've really screwed up in life.
Yes. But what we will talk about today is leadership and humor, if we can.
Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. Good
Yeah.
topic.
I love it because a lot of times people stray away from it, but I am a firm believer and full supporter of that. So I'm excited to talk through it.
Super.
Yeah. All right. So can you start off and give us an idea of why humor has the ability to connect leadership and leaders with their organization, especially in high stress situations? Because I feel like people generally, especially shy away from humor in high stress situations because there's
Right.
perception that everything should be super serious because everything is real and stressful.
Right. And I will buffer this with, if it's really like people hate you, it's really bad, don't go joking around or using the humor. I'm not saying joking because I'm
Right.
not talking about telling jokes. I'm not talking about being a comedian as a leader. I'm talking about just finding humor in a situation. But if it's really stressful, people hate you, there's anger, don't do it. But if you're just trying to be able to reset, take a breath, it is a great way to diffuse the tension. I'll start with, don't you feel like you can talk to somebody who uses a little bit of humor? It makes you more approachable. It makes you want to listen to them if they use a little bit of humor. Say you sit down to a staff meeting and you've just had some big thing happen. No more free coffee in the coffee room, or no more free parking or something. If you don't address it as a leader and you just move on with the agenda, people are going to sit there thinking, oh, he or she doesn't know what I'm dealing with. They are ignoring it. But sometimes you can just address it a little bit with a little bit of humor, and it kind of takes the tension out a little bit and lets people know, okay, the boss knows what I'm dealing with. And then you can address it further later, but just a little bit. Comedians, when we get on stage, if something's happened weird ahead of us, that's not conducive to comedy. I've had to go up after so much long award ceremonies or people reading off the list of people who died. If I don't start off with just a little bit of something to transition, you don't really have the crowd because they're still back there thinking about what just happened. So you find a little bit of humor in the situation, say that, and then it changes the energy. I think that's one of the best benefits. It'll change the energy really fast, and you can move through the stressful situation and acknowledge that, hey, I know what you just went through. Let's move on. So it's a fast way to do it. It is a muscle. I tell people you got to practice it. Some people are born naturally funny. Some people, most of us comedians, just know where to look, and you have to look around and keep looking for the humor and finding it to practice that humor muscle. So when you need it, you can pull out a little bit of the humor in the situation.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially as you mentioned the energy shift, because you think of work in these super serious, stressful situations. And then, like you said, you're at an award show and somebody just read a list of everybody who passed over the last year. And so everybody's already down in the dumps. And for you to go, okay, let's move on. And you moving on to something else, that's not going to shift their energy unless you do something intentional.
Yeah, I did an event one time. They gave out service pins for years of service, 292. And people walked to the stage and got their pin, walked back all night. And finally, I get on stage and people are ready. They don't want to hear me. They don't know who I am. Why am I up there for another 45 minutes? And so I used a little bit of humor to change the energy. I said, I think I got my 5-year pin just sitting here. And the place went nuts, and then it changed and we moved on. So I acknowledged it, kept going into my act. That's a really good benefit of using humor. And again, it makes you approachable. Don't you feel like you can talk to somebody, and tells you a little bit about somebody? You can find out about people, the humor they use. Listen to if they're snarky, you know what frame of mind they're in. But you can tell people about yourself as a leader by joking about having 8 kids or something. You can do stuff like that, let people know about you without being boring.
Now, is there a certain type of humor I'd say a normal non-comedian leader can have in there? Because I'm assuming something happens and then somebody's not going to go and start a 45-minute stand-up routine.
No,
Is there a
it's
certain
not.
type?
Yeah, not really a type. I would say, obviously, you're not trying to be a comedian. You're not trying to even get killer laugh funny. You just want to get people to take a breath. Obviously, stay away from hot topics, sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics. Stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah.
Use your common sense, and situational stuff is good for leaders. What people are dealing with in the moment, what the company's going through. If it's been some big reorg or something, you can use a little bit of humor, what people have been dealing with. Certainly, again, if they're not angry or ready to kill you, you can do that. But I would say just use your common sense, pay attention to your surroundings, and find the humor. Again, not jokes, but just a little bit of light humor. Doesn't have to be belly laugh funny like a comedian. Don't even worry about bombing or, oh, it won't go over well. Most people in business are happy that you have at least tried to make it lighten the situation. They don't get mad at you. They get mad at you if you're a comedian on stage at the comedy club. Trust me. When you're starting out and you're not funny, it's hard. But as leaders, I think it shows a little bit of human side to you if you use a little bit of humor.
It's about the effort and breaking the ice. You don't have to be the most successful stand-up comedian, but as long as you humanize yourself in front of them, it's super
Yeah,
important.
yeah, for sure. I've had leaders say that. I've had CEOs say, thank you for joking about me. And I've had license to do that with them because I look more human to people and they can feel like they can talk to me. And when I made jokes about whatever this one CEO was telling me, he was really happy I did it because he could let people know, okay, our boss is a real guy.
Yeah. And is there a way that, because this is the first thing that kind of came to my mind as we were talking, and I'd love to know how we handle these types of situations. So I think you have the obvious, don't touch those, like you said. Let's not touch politics. Let's not touch religion.
Yeah.
Certain things like that you want to stray away from. When there are more serious things happening in the workplace, I feel like there could be two ways. One is, I think, as you said, let's use humor to acknowledge it, break the ice, be like, hey, this really rough thing happened. Yeah, that sucks. And, or
Yeah.
I've been sitting here for 5 years while they passed out 300 pins.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is there also a side of it where it's that whole too soon thing and we try to be humorous about it, but it doesn't land well because people take it more personally or, hey, this isn't really a great situation we're in. How could you joke about that? Is there that
Yeah.
fine line?
You have to take a beat sometimes and not joke right about it, but you can also joke around the situation. COVID, can't make jokes about that. People died. But there was a lot of humor going around about how we made our face masks out of underwear and all the standing 6 feet apart. And there was a lot of humor around the situation you can do. Also, self-deprecating humor is great for leaders because people like to, again, humanize you. So you can do that sort of thing. Only make fun of a group you're a member of. If you're bald, you can make fun of bald. If you're tall, you can make fun of tall. If you're not, don't do it. But yeah, use your common sense, I would say. Don't jump right in and, hey, we just had a bunch of layoffs, and
Yeah.
which I've had to go on stage after they've laid people off, and
Oh
that's a
gosh.
challenge. But obviously, that's not funny. And it's not funny about the things around layoffs because everybody's afraid it'll be them. But there are other things, there are office things, common things I would find. The office copier doesn't work if people still have copiers in the office. I don't know. I haven't been in an office in years, decades. But there's things around the office you can have fun with and kick off a little bit of tension. Yeah, there's things in the office you can have fun with, things, policies. I don't know. Casual day, we had casual Friday, and we had a lot of jokes about that. So there's a lot of fun you can have with just the common situations that people are dealing with. And I think that's a good one to stick with. But again, yeah, don't jump into something that's too soon.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of it is also just knowing your people, especially people who build good cultures and are great leaders, know
Yeah.
their organization. And if you spend the time to know your people, you're going to know where those lines are.
Building good cultures and great leaders, yeah, they know you've got a good rapport with your coworkers and staff. And so you know where you can go with things. And that humor just adds to that. I think it's a tool in the toolbox that a lot of leaders don't think about using because they think, oh, that's for somebody else. I'm not a comedian. I've never done comedy. I don't, and they're afraid to use it. When you could just start small and use a little bit of it, try to find something, pull out something. Irony is a big one for comedy, and pull out an irony that's with this new policy, why is it we're trying to cut back on paper and we send it out in a 10-page memo? Things like that. We're cutting down on emails, but I just sent. You can have some fun with the ironies in the office. You can have some fun with subject lines on emails. So you want someone to open an email. You can put a fun subject line. A penny saved is a penny earned. Take one of the idioms that we know of. A penny saved is a penny that should be on your expense account. It makes people want to open the email. I mean, that's a way to show people you have a little humor muscle and that you're open to humor and get people to read your email.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've talked so far about how to break the ice around pretty serious situations or maybe high stressful situations so far. What about humor with communication or kind of reinforcing something that you're trying to set with the team, as opposed to me just saying, Jan, we need you to go
Right.
do this? Is there a way that we can incorporate humor to have things stick a little more or at least energize the
Many a
person
truth is
around
said
that?
in jest. Yeah, many a truth is said in jest. And you brought up a great point. Somebody said emotion plus information equals retention. Humor is a great emotion to feel. Laughter is a great because it makes you remember it. You
Yep.
remember your favorite jokes. You don't remember the comedian, but you remember jokes. And I think that is a great way to get policies over. I see so many companies who have that list of, I don't know, OSHA regulations and all that. You can have a little bit more fun to get people to really pay attention. I think it was New Jersey a few years ago. They had all the road construction had funny signs about
Yeah.
it, funny sayings, and I just laughed because that was a great way to make people go, okay, there's road construction. I got to pay attention. And so yeah, bring attention to something by making light of it, but not making it like, safety is hilarious, and but people remember a safety message if it's couched a little bit. I've spoken of safety and emergency management groups
Yeah.
because they keep hearing the same message over and over. People keep hearing, do your time cards. Maybe if you made that message stand out a little more, I don't know,
I
add an
think
idiom to it or something funny that would make people remember it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the humor helps people remember it and has it resonate with them. Because I think, at least with my group and what I've seen a lot more recently, especially as things like Facebook and LinkedIn and everything have kind of blown up, is memeing everything. Right? You make a meme out of this and a meme out of that. It
Yeah.
adds the humor to something, some either serious situation or something that's frustrating or something you want to remember.
Yeah. And people do remember it. They remember, like I said, you remember jokes. You don't remember the comedian, but you remember the jokes. You remember the message. You remember what they're trying to say.
Exactly. And it's the little things like even the joke and the meme then sparks something that reminds you of this. There's the meme where there's the three Spider-Mans pointing at each other. And then at work, they're like, oh, hey, I talked to this person. They told me to talk to this person. They told me to talk to this person. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then the person's, oh, yeah, it's a Spider-Man meme. And it just immediately lightened
Oh,
the
that's funny.
tension.
Yeah, yeah. Right. People think it has to be verbal or in a speech or something, but you can use cartoons, use memes, use things that show people that you have a sense of humor and that you understand what they're dealing with at the office or at work. And you can get your humor out that way to show you have a humor muscle.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so important. And when you have leaders that may deem themselves as not that funny, how do they then approach these kind of situations and try to get their start instead of just shying away from it, going, that's not for me?
Yeah, you have to feel comfortable with it. I always tell people, even if you want to be a stand-up comedian, start small. Comedians start with 3-minute open mics because we can't do 45 minutes. You don't want to hear a new person doing 45 minutes. So just look around your surroundings and find the irony in the situation. Change an idiom that's real easy, or change an acronym. Every company has a million acronyms.
Oh, yeah.
RFP. We got to put those RFPs out. I had a good acronym for that. It went through my head, but you can just use a little bit of humor and you get the bug. I think you'll have fun doing it. You'll sell it. I always tell people use the humor that is true to you. If you
Hmm.
like knock knock jokes, do them. If you think something's funny, do it because you'll sell it better and people will like it and they'll enjoy it. There are comedians who are funny on paper. I'm pretty funny on paper. There are comedians who, if you read their act, you're like, that's not that funny. But they are funny. They sell it. The concept, they get out there. Oh, I know, RFP, really frustrating paperwork. That's what.
So all
So
our
yeah, but if
paperwork.
you put some fun stuff in like that, it makes people want to read it, gives it people a sense of, okay, you got a little bit of humor. So start small, start little. You don't have to put it in your big company speech. And if you are going to use it in the speech, obviously practice it, know it cold, and know what you're going to do right after that in case you don't get the response you want. But don't hinge everything on, I hope I don't bomb, because you're focusing on what you don't want. Of course, you don't want to bomb. Focus on, hey, I want to share this with you. It's funny. I think it's funny. And you come at it with that attitude. And then know where you're going with your speech so you don't stand there. I do 3 or 4 jokes a minute because I started out, if something didn't hit, keep going.
Yeah. Don't have time for the awkward silence to seep in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, you didn't like that. I'll keep going. Rodney Dangerfield style.
Oh, yeah. Oh. I remember Rodney Dangerfield. I don't know how many people probably remember Rodney
I
Dangerfield these
know.
days, as sad
I
as that
saw
is.
him when I moved out here. I saw him at the Melrose Improv on Melrose, which is a pretty famous club. He walks in, it's about 11:30 at night, wearing a robe, slippers, martini, has some 20-year-old woman on his arm, and he went out. He decided he wanted to do a set. I guess he's home drinking and decided he wanted to get on stage. He shows up, and then, of course, they yank off whatever comedian's up there.
Yeah.
They put him up, and man, it was probably 3 minute, 4 minutes of standing ovation. People couldn't get enough. And he was great. It
Wow.
was really a fun experience to watch that. Be yourself, I'd say too. Say something because you think it's funny. I said, be true to yourself, be you. Say something that you think is funny and probably sell it and people will like it.
Yeah, and that's immediately what I thought of as you were explaining it before, where your authenticity is so important, especially when it comes to humor, because
Yeah.
I think of myself and the humor I always went towards as I came up in the company was sarcasm. You use the
Yeah.
sarcasm and that humor to
Yeah.
lighten everything up. And now that I've become a father over the past 8 years now, I feel like I've got the card to then use dad jokes. Hey, I'm a dad now. I
Hey,
can
do
use
it,
really
man.
dad jokes. And I've been booed by my team and they don't like when I do it, but they do it in a fun way where you could tell they appreciate it, but they do not like the jokes. But
Yeah.
hey, I'll tell you, it cuts the tension. It makes things calmer. We even had a time where for a month or two, we started every meeting we had with a bad dad joke because it just immediately broke the ice and made the meeting so much better.
And you'll get people pulling you aside going, hey, I got this boo on that, but oh, I got this funny joke for next time.
Yeah.
Because they enjoy it. In the office, you do have to be clean. You can't tell dirty or off color jokes or whatever. But I always tell comedians when they're starting out, be you. If you cuss a lot, you're not going to work where I do, but you'll be you, and the clubs will book you because they want your take on everything. So you have to be you in the humor.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And is there anything else the leader has to do, or is it the leader embodying and showing the humor enough to encourage the rest of their organization to also lean into the humor and know it's okay to bring that humor into the group?
Yeah, I don't think you can force people to use humor, but I think as a leader, just do it, have fun with it, and I think you'll get some great benefits. People will connect with you, and people want to work with the people they want to have a beer with, for the most part, or a glass of wine. When you use a little bit of humor, you get that message out there.
Is there anything else that an upper leader, a CEO, director, whoever it is, can learn from comedians to help shape their style a little bit, aside from just the direct humor? Is there anything else? The thing that came to mind was you mentioned, hey, I'll do 3 jokes a minute because if one doesn't land, I'm just going to keep going. Are there any nuggets like that upper leaders can learn from comedians to keep them going?
I could teach you how to handle hecklers. Actually, you never have to handle the heckler. All you have to do is go after his spouse. It's usually a guy or his girlfriend, and they will get him to shut up. So you don't have to always go after the loudest person. Yeah, there's a lot. Comedians command a stage. We get in front of people that we have no connection with, hundreds, thousands of people we have no connection with, and we have to bring them all together to laugh at the same thing, and we have to do it fast. I would say long drawn out stories are not my style. Some people can pull them off well, but I would say make the humor quick when you're starting out because it's very hard to keep people's attention. And I enjoy the faster humor. Start looking around your environment for the commonalities that people are dealing with because we go the same route to work every day. We go in the same door to the office every day. We go to walk our same route and we're not paying attention to the surroundings because we've done it so much. So really take a look at the surroundings. I always have fun when I walk into a new room and I look around it. Okay, what's the air temperature? What's the ceilings look like? What's the centerpieces on the table? What's on the agenda? I did an event one time where the guy speaking ahead of me was speaking on networking, and the title of his talk was Never Eat Lunch Alone. And right after him on the agenda, lunch on your own. There's so much humor, things around us that are funny that lend itself, and we aren't paying attention to it unless you point it out. So easy humor to point out, of course, is the best because that gets people to go, aha, yeah. There are a lot of things leaders can learn from comedians. Just watch comedians handle a heckler. Everyone has hecklers. I don't care if you're on
Right.
stage or in an office, you have people that you have to deal with. We have ways to diffuse tension. I do a lot of research on my groups when I go out. And so you should know your people, like you said earlier. I did an event for 2,000 nurses, and one nurse was filming me, and I just don't let people do cell phone films. It doesn't come out good. The quality, even now, the audio isn't great. And I don't want that out on the internet. I don't want that to
Right.
anyone. And so I had to stop my really killer show because I kept shaking my head, looking right at her, shaking my head. And so finally I just stopped and, hey, no filming, no. Hey, no filming. I'd look right at her. And then it's dead silence, and I have to get them back. And luckily, I did my research, and I said, "How do you discipline a nurse? You call her doctor?" Because I know that there was a lot of animosity between doctors and nurses. And boom, the whole place went up, and I could continue. So knowing your group is good, but we know how to handle hecklers. We know how to politely stop people from doing stuff we don't want them to do. Leaders can learn a lot from comedians.
I think they can. And you brought up a great point where there have been many times also where you're in the middle of talking to your group or you're in the middle of bringing up normal things or normal change that has to happen. And like you said, there's always that, whether you want to call them a heckler or a negative Nelly or whatever you want to call them, that person in there that's going to just rain on your parade. And as you said in
Yeah.
your nurse example, it just brings the whole feeling of the room down. And
Yeah.
and then you're just sitting there as a leader. I feel like it's not handling that person that's the difficulty. It's what you said after. How do you get the group back? How do you get them
Yes.
engaged again to be like, okay, now let's go back to where we were? I think that's a huge thing that they can learn from the
Well,
comedian.
it's funny. I did one time, probably 500 people in this room, and I talked to the client ahead of time, and every person on the committee said, "Oh gosh, I'll say Bob. This guy Bob he's disruptive. He always interrupts." And I said, "Look, I don't make fun of people. I don't bash people. No, but Bob is a problem." I said, I can't." So I'm doing my show. I'm having a great show, and also this guy keeps shouting stuff. And finally, I stopped and I said, "Are you Bob?" And the place went nuts. I was acknowledging what everyone had told me. And it was Bob. He was trying to
Right.
be the center of attention. But we also know how to not give someone the center of attention. As a leader, you are the leader. Don't let someone take that away from you. Don't let them take that power away from you. And it can happen. So we know how to do that as well, to kindly get people to settle down. We know how to stay in a crappy hotel if you're stuck in a bad hotel or in a city.
Yeah.
We got a lot of tips for leaders.
And I think it's great to be able to draw that line between the comedy and the leader because there are, especially as we're talking about this, there are so many commonalities between what you have to deal with on stage and what a leader has to deal with in a room. And again, you got me thinking because I've approached the beginning of this conversation with how you can use humor with this group that you know. But as you said before, you're going to go and walk into a group of people with 500, 2,000 people that you don't know anybody other than maybe the
Right.
person that you worked with to set this up. And I think of myself, obviously, I have my own group, but then I also go to other plants within our company and go train people. And
Yeah,
99% of the people in that room, I don't know, I've never met before, but now we're in this 3 day training I'm giving and I have to hold everybody's attention. So being able to put into practice some of the things that you've talked about is so important to get that room together.
absolutely. And practice is the key, not like you have to stand out loud and practice it, but to start looking for stuff, start looking for the irony, start looking for the funny things, and start just noticing. So when you need to use it, you've got that there. Like the Bob situation, where I wasn't going to use that at all. I was going to say a word about him because I'm not going to bash him, but at least I knew what was going on.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I feel like people have tunnel vision a lot. And even like I said, if I go and I go somewhere to go train people, I have tunnel vision very much on the people that I'm training, the thing that I'm going to go train on, and I get complacent on the rest of the environment. I never think to go sit there and look around and start taking in my surroundings. I think, okay, how do I make sure I go over this topic the right way? Who's in the room? What's their tenure with the company? And how much of this do I
Yeah.
have to explain? And I feel like we overthink it a lot and we just put on these blinders.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you go into situations that you don't know what's going to happen. But if you start paying attention to even the vibe in the room, if it's kind of low energy and people are like, the time I had to do something when people were getting laid off. Actually, it was a funny story that I was told about 2 hours before my event, people are going to get laid off.
Oh my
Like,
God.
oh, really? And about 10 minutes before my event, they found out they were not because the sale of the company fell through.
Wow.
So it worked out really great that way. But a good example, okay, so I did this Christmas party and I was talking to the client about 2 weeks, 3 weeks out, and she said people aren't that happy at the party because they just found out they are not getting their bonuses this year.
Wow.
Great. We couldn't have done this after the party. So I
Right.
get to the party and people were really not happy. And it was in Iowa, very cold in
Mm.
December. So I started in my act and it was a slog. And finally I stopped and I looked around and I said, it's really cold here in Iowa. No snow. In fact, I understand the only thing frozen around here is salaries. Whoosh! Change. Everyone loved it because I knew that little tidbit of something.
Yeah.
So it was fun. So collect those tidbits. Collect that stuff in your brain. And when you go into a training, start looking around, collect what you hear, and make a list if you have to. Comedians do a lot of lists, and you can pull it out when you need it. and really make some fast connections without a lot of effort. I did an event one time, and I just wrote it on my Substack about it. Actually, there's truckers in a church basement. It was a Christmas party. Truckers, I have nothing in common. Nothing against them, nothing against me. We have nothing in common. I've never driven an 18-wheeler. It scares me. They're masters at this, okay?
Yeah.
It's in a church basement, chicken, punch, no beer, no alcohol. And these are people that probably drink a beer or two. And to make it even weirder, right before I went on, this is probably a dozen years ago, we held hands and the CEO led us in a prayer, which is really odd. And during the prayer, my whole time I'm thinking, what am I going to do? A lot of work humor, the work lady. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can change some of the work stuff, but I can't talk about cubicles here. And someone's cell phone went off and on, and nobody would answer it. So finally, I get on stage, like start off, and it's going okay. But finally, I stopped and I said, during that prayer, someone's cell phone went off. I hope someone answered it because it could have been Jesus calling down to find out where's the beer. Whoosh again. So those little tidbits are the things that will just like, oh my gosh, you can connect so fast if you're paying attention.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's also important as we kind of go full circle with this to kind of know the group or know what kind of people they are, get some information from your contact if you can. Like you said, the person who told you the
Absolutely.
bonuses were not happening and then you were able to use that information.
I
Things
didn't
that,
think I would because I didn't want to talk about no
right.
bonuses. These examples are things I never thought I'd be bringing up, but you file it away and it comes back and you're, oh yeah, they did say Bob is a pain. Oh, they did
Yeah.
say this. And that is where it's useful. The stuff that you've maybe written off as I can't touch that subject, bonuses. And the CEO, I don't know if he liked it or didn't, but the crowd liked it and I saved his party. And I acknowledged what he wasn't willing to acknowledge.
And I think that's what's important because, like we said before, we're going to make this list of things we should never talk about. And I will say, high majority of the time, you don't want to talk about things like religion and politics and stuff. But you have these other things that you have mentioned that you'll kind of put away to say, hey, I really shouldn't touch on this. It's kind of bring the group down. But then you find that opportunity where it does seem like it's pretty appropriate. I'm sure you walked into the church basement and you're like, all right, I'm probably not going to go do a joke about Jesus. But the situation brought itself there and you were able to tie it all together.
Absolutely. And I do have a list of questions I ask if anyone wants to email me of what I do when I interview a client that I go through. Okay, what's your theme? Who's the group? All that. If anyone wants a copy of that, I'm happy to share.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll be very helpful to kind of get the initial information from everybody.
Yeah,
But as we wrap up, is there any final thoughts that you want to share with everybody?
I would say just take the plunge and do a little bit of humor. Don't second guess yourself. Don't wait for permission. Nobody ever told me I was the funniest person in the room. Just do it if you want to do it and start small, do a little bit, and have fun with it. Have fun. You're trying to get everyone to have fun. You got to have fun too. Don't be scared. Don't be tense. Don't focus on failing. Just go have fun with it.
It's okay to have fun. Hopefully,
It's
everybody
okay to
knows
have
that
fun.
it's okay to have fun.
Once in a while, you can have fun
I
at
know.
work.
No fun, please. It's okay to have fun.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. For everybody, this has been Jan McInnis. I will have all of her information in the podcast postings, and then the postings we have on LinkedIn and some of the other places as well. So you can get her information. I can get you all in contact if you want to. I know she mentioned that she's kind of got her checklist and her questions that she asks people. And then we'll also have information on her two books. Reminder, they're Finding the Funny Fast and Convention Comedian. You can
Yeah.
like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast on all the podcast platforms that we have, to my Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Leading Quarters. And you can email me with any questions you may have for myself or for Jan, or any ideas you may have for future episodes. Or if you're interested in being on any future episodes, you can email me at leadingquarters@gmail.com. But Jan, I do really appreciate you coming on here. I think humor, I'm a big fan of it in the workplace. I know some people stray away from it, but I do think it really brings people together, as you've given us multiple examples during this conversation. So I'm just
Yeah.
very happy that you've been able to come here and share all that with us today.
Thank you for having me, Josh. Look forward to people being funnier.
Me too.